La gran omisión de Netflix. Lo que nunca se dijo de las políticas de libre mercado de Thatcher en la serie The Crown, que llevó a Reino Unido de la quiebra y la miseria a una gran prosperidad y riqueza para todos. Solo presentaron la crisis al principio que recibió, omitiendo su glorioso final, tal como presentan en el próximo video con subtítulos en español.
My goal is to change this country from being dependent to self-reliant, and I think in that I am succeeding.
Joblessness, recession, crises. It's a dangerous game to make enemies left, right, and center.
Not if one is comfortable with having enemies.
Are you?
Oh, yes.
Tras su gran reducción de impuestos, regulaciones, gasto público y endeudamiento, su éxito fue tan grande que hasta sus más fervientes opositores y el partido opositor tuvo que admitir su gran éxito en casi todos los indicadores, en donde solamente pudieron reprocharle el indicador de la desigualdad material. Pero obviamente va a haber desigualdad cuando había tanta pobreza y tantas personas salieron de la pobreza y tuvieron riqueza nueva, lo cual genera, pero por una razón positiva, inmediatamente desigualdad. Ahora bien, con más tiempo y cuando aún más personas salen de la pobreza, porque se construye esa clase media más grande, la desigualdad también termina reduciéndose. Es decir, el libre mercado solamente genera desigualdad al principio por una razón nueva, porque se está creando riqueza nueva. Pero a largo plazo o a mediano plazo, esa desigualdad en su totalidad también se reduce. Además, si se logra eliminar la pobreza y no hay pobreza, ¿cuál sería el problema con la desigualdad si ya todo el mundo es clase media? ¿Cuál es el problema que tu vecino tenga más que tú? Eso significa automáticamente que hay envidia y resentimiento. Más nada. Veamos el video que demuestra todo esto.
I give way to the honourable gentleman.
There is no doubt that the Prime Minister has in many ways achieved substantial success in the economy. There is one statistic that I understand is not, however, challenging, and that is that over her 11 years, the gap between the richest 10% and the poorest 10% in this country has widened substantially. How can she say at the end of her chapter of British politics that she can justify many people in a constituency such as mine being relatively much poorer off, much less well housed, and much less well provided than it was in 1979? Surely she accepts that is not a record that she or any Prime Minister can be proud of.
Mr. Speaker, all levels of income are better off than they were in 1979. But what the honourable member is saying is that he would rather the poor were poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That way you will never create the wealth for better social services as we have. And what a policy! Yes, he would rather have the poor poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That is the Liberal policy. Yes, it came out, he didn't intend it to, but he did. I give way to the honourable gentleman.
I'm extremely grateful. The Prime Minister is aware that I detest every single one of her domestic policies, and I've never hid that.
And I think that the honourable gentleman knows that I have the same contempt for his socialist policies as the people of East Europe who have experienced it have it for theirs. I think I must have hit the right nail on the head when I pointed out that the logic of those policies are they'd rather have the poor poorer. Once they start to talk about the gap, they'd rather the gap were that. Down here. That. Not that. But that. So long as the gap is smaller, so long as the gap is smaller, they'd rather have the poor poorer. You do not create wealth and opportunity that way. You do not create a property-owning democracy that way.
And some said strident. She would revolutionize the economy.
The spirit of enterprise had been sat upon for years by socialism, by too high tax, by too high regulation, by too high public expenditure. The philosophy was nationalization, centralization, control, regulation. Now, this had to end.
While she was at Oxford, she read Hayek's Road to Serfdom. It made a lasting impression on her. Years later, when she became the first woman to lead the Conservative Party, she once slammed Hayek's book down on a table and announced, "This is what we believe."
Thatcher's office came on and said, could she come and drop in to see him? And so she called by, and there was a period of unaccustomed silence from Margaret Thatcher as she sat there, intense, attending to the master's words.
By 1974, Hayek sensed the world beginning to go his way.
So far as the movement of intellectual opinion is concerned, it is now, for the first time in my life, moving in the right direction.
What matters is your accomplishments. And nobody can deny that this is a very different country now to the one inherited by our first woman Prime Minister.
And the air of the shyness that is clear. I am the sun and air of nothing in particular.
Congratulations.
CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about troubling and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.